to go?
Okay,
All
there.
right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And of course, this is season four, so I do invite you to have a look at the three previous seasons. There may be some topics there that relate to your reality today. So they are timeless. I do invite you to have a look. And we're going to jump right in. This is a topic that I've been wanting to bring on, and I'm really happy to have my guest on today because there's a lot of mixed emotions when it comes to this type of topic. We're going to be talking about communicating, a form of communicating through AI. And so, of course, there's a lot of people that um, have strong emotions on that or strong opinions on this, but we're particularly talking about when it comes to your well-being, your safety, emotional safety as well. If you have to communicate with a co-parent that you may not have or you may not be on in good terms, this is a tool that my guest has that may be very, very helpful. So I'm going to put the spotlight on him. I have Sol Kennedy with me, and thank you so much for joining me. I'm really, really excited to have you on.
Danielle, thank you for bringing me on. I really appreciate being with you and your audience today.
That's great. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. So I'm the founder of a product called BestInterest, and I've always been an entrepreneur since when I was 14. I started my first software company, so I've always thought of how do I help the world be a better place using software. And through that process, I went through a divorce, and through that I realized I needed to solve this. There's a really big problem for a lot of co-parents in their communication. And so just to take you back to this moment where I felt this inspiration, I was falling to sleep. It was about maybe 3 years after my divorce, and got a text message right before I went to bed, and I felt my heart race, and I felt sweat across my brow, and I noticed that I would not be able to go to sleep that night until I had read that
Mm,
message, and probably spent the next hour figuring out how to respond to it in a good way. And it was in that moment I realized I couldn't live like this. I couldn't create a new life. I couldn't be present with my kids if I was constantly being kind of pulled into this dynamic that we still had, even post divorce. And so that was the spark that ignited Best Interest, but it wasn't really quite ready yet because at that time there wasn't AI, there wasn't really a way to solve this that I could think of. But I thought, okay, well, how about I solve this through the way I know, which is I can hire someone to do this. So I actually hired a customer support agent for my relationship. I thought, well, maybe he won't get triggered by the same stuff I will. And so he can kind of shield me from the experience that I'm having. And it actually really worked. It wasn't a business, it wasn't scalable, but it kind of gave me a little bit of peace in a dynamic that I was just finding myself constantly trapped in by. And so that was kind of put aside. It worked for a while. I didn't end up using it for that long. And then one day I heard about AI and I started playing around with my kids actually. And we were using it to create bedtime stories together. And after I put them to bed one night, I thought, gosh, this AI seems to be pretty good at language. Maybe it would understand if I fed my conversation history into it, what I'm going through. And in that moment, I felt seen, I felt understood. I mean, many of your listeners probably have already done this. AI can really understand what we're going through and can help us with conversations. And it was that spark about 3 years ago that ignited into this app, which is now helping co-parents across the world communicate more kindly to one another.
I think that's amazing, and you really touched on something very a sensitive point. I think many of us go through, and it's yeah, those texts, and when you just know there's something like what now, we're already worn out, and it's often hard to take a step back and remove the emotions from it before we reply. So it
I
does
call
have
that
an impact.
Yeah, I call that dreading the ding. That
Yeah.
moment where you're just like, you can hear the ding, you know there's a potential that it's going to be bad. It might be innocuous, you don't know. But it's
Mhm.
like that realization that there's now a message that you we'll have to look at eventually, it can induce a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I like that. And you're absolutely right. I've noticed that lately. Is playing around with AI, the program that I use for some of the work that I do. And I was impressed at how it responds. Like, if you do talk about, okay, this is my scenario, and yeah, they would often guide you into a direction that you wouldn't even think of in that situation. Or when you're just done, you don't want to be talking to your co-parent, or you may be in a situation where ideally you should be no contact, but because of the children, you still have to be in contact. It is nice to be able to uh, keep a record of what's being communicated and stay on track with what we're actually communicating for. Um, Before we talk even more about how we can set those boundaries and remove the emotions out of the context and some of the way that we communicate, what are some of the traps that you see with your clients and the people that you work with that we can easily fall into that this system could help us take away or remove from the equation?
Well, a lot of times in these situations, we are navigating a lot of unconscious triggers, right?
Hmm.
We get a message, and inside our brain lights up this whole network of all our past experiences with this other person, all our resentment, all our unhealed parts step in and say, hit him back, do this, right? And it happens in a flash. We're not even truly conscious of it. And so a lot of times in these scenarios, one of the easiest way, before we even jump to using AI or anything, that I like to employ is I have a rule for myself, my own internal boundary, where I just step away. I'm never going to respond to a message from my co-parent immediately, right? And that internal boundary helps me. I put down my phone, I go walk around the room or go take a walk, and then I respond, even if it feels urgent, just a little break so that it shorts out that immediate system that can often lead to communication that isn't coming from our higher self.
Right.
Communication that can end up resulting in conflicts, that can end up resulting in us ending up back in court. So I think that that's one of the first things that a parent in this scenario can do is provide a little bit more space for themselves and start gaining more awareness about those initial triggers that are causing them to react in certain ways. Even if you see your co-parent as the aggressor in all of this, we are in a dynamic with our co-parent, and whether your role is more of kind of the demanding, controlling side, or more of the defensive, responsive side, there needs to be two parts playing in this dynamic for it to work. So that's kind of the nice thing is once you realize that and you stop playing that role, it can shift the whole dynamic.
Yeah. And I can see it as well when we were speaking before when we were off camera is also if you're able to take that step back and be a bit more mindful of how you communicate with a co-parent, the other co-parent may not be at that same level. So I could see it as something where you can set those boundaries, where you can set some parameters where, and I'll let you explain it because I don't want to be saying the wrong thing, but are you able to set parameters where is this the kind of language I don't want, or is there set times where I will not receive texts at 2 a.m. in the morning? Is it something that you can do with your app?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to be clear too, my little internal boundary thing is just a trick that you can play without an app.
Yeah.
That's setting your own boundaries on responses. And some of these insights absolutely have been built into Best Interest. When I first came up with this idea, I I don't come from a therapeutic background. I was 38 when I first stepped foot in a therapist's office, in the midst
Mhm.
of my marriage falling apart. That was when I thought, okay, now's a good time. Oh man, I wish I had done it much earlier, right? Looking back, and knowing how much I love therapy now, I think that, I should have become a therapist, honestly. But that's an aside. Yeah. So when I was coming up with this idea, I thought I really want to have some guidance and support from someone more knowledgeable than I am in these therapeutic
Mhm.
ideas. And so I reached out to one of the only superstars that really I felt helped me so much during my own divorce, her YouTube channel, Dr. Romani. And I thought, yeah, she would probably turn me down, but I might as well just go for the big shot and see if she, is interested. And sure enough, we hit it off. She loved the idea, and she decided to join. And she was our very first beta tester. She gave me some just wonderful feedback about how to communicate and how to set certain boundaries. So, to give you an example of one of the features that we built in because of her insights. So, with Best Interest, when you receive a message from your co parent, we're going to review it first before you even see it, before we notify you about it. We're going to see what the context is of this message. And we're going to make a determination about what is child focused versus not. And only the child focused stuff gets to you. That way, you can start trusting those notifications. So the notifications you get from Best Interest, it just means that there's some type of child-focused communication that you need to see today to be a good co-parent. That's the determination we're doing. It helps remove some of that anxiety from those notifications and from that back and forth from your co-parent. But then in addition to that, you can always see that original message. And what's so cool about that is you can actually get that message that's child-focused and wait to review that original message. So take the action you need today to, be a good co-parent today, and then go in with your therapist in the next session and open up that original message together and process in real time what's coming up for you, what's going on, what are some of those unconscious patterns that are happening. For the first time ever, a therapist can actually work with their clients when they review these messages right away.
That's incredible. I'm just blown away by what we can do with AI now. And I
Yeah.
love that because with my clients when I work, especially if there's a court order where they're very specific with not talking bad about the other parent and all of that, especially when the children are around or, to kind of keep it as healthy as possible for the children. But it can be difficult when you're being triggered in so many ways. So to keep everything, you're still communicating because you have children together. So keeping it child focused, I think, such a great feature to have so that it puts you back into, okay, what is it we're actually trying to solve right now? And the fact that therapists or counselors are now open to just go through the original messages to see what it is triggering you with. It's great for breaking generational pattern. I think I was just blown away by this. It's so wonderful.
Well, and it also can be really empowering for a parent who is in that exact scenario you describe, where the courts have said only child-focused communication, but yet maybe they've experienced going to court and realizing how little the court actually really truly cares or can change anything about that type of communication. All they can really do at the end of the day is just say, well, use a co-parenting app, but that doesn't necessarily solve the problem, right? And so what we're doing is we're stepping in and saying, you know what? Enough trusting your co-parent to manage themselves and obey the court order on this. Clearly, that's, we're beyond that. We're going to
Yeah.
empower you to say, I don't want to be spoken to like that anymore. And you get to stay in the driver's seat of your co-parenting arrangement so you can respond to anything that's child-focused. Everything else, it's not really up to you. You don't need to worry about it anymore. That's the goal.
Yeah. That's great. It is absolutely empowering. I love that. It's just I'm always I know I've said it a lot of many, many times already, but I'm blown away by just how I can see how much more you can do. And it does, I see it also as what this app allows you to do in terms of taking the emotions or the triggers out of the communication. It can be transferable to other situations, not necessarily with a co-parent, but that coworker that's just driving you insane at work, or just family members if you're in that kind of environment as well, where there's some family issues. You need to it gets that muscle working where you can just take that step back and see where you're at. Take care of yourself before you start communicating with the people that do trigger you. I think it's a great thing to have as a tool.
Yeah, and widening the lens for a little bit. You started off by saying that AI is a controversial topic, right? There are a lot of really scary things that are going on because of AI. And, we're worried about our jobs, worried about the future. And yet also there are a lot of really good things. And so one of the things that's very positive about I believe, is that it gives us the ability to protect people from abuse, people that were previously not uh, protected by the existing systems, and
Mhm.
it also helps to uncover hidden abuse, because instead of, you could never hire your therapist to review all the messages coming in from your co-parent, right? That would be too expensive, and who would do that? But now we're able to, because of AI, we're able to scale up, these insights, these protections, so that for $10 a month, you can experience true feelings of protection. It just hasn't been possible before. So I feel really hopeful, as I look into the future with AI, that it will be able to scale up. Maybe best interest, maybe we will do that. Maybe we'll expand. It's definitely been a feature request I get a lot about. Can you please build one for my boss, or please build one for my elderly parents? Like a lot of times in these semi-obligatory relationships, there can be really difficult dynamics, and
Yeah.
AI can help us find a little bit more peace um, in this type of situation.
Yeah. This is where I find that the work that you do is so important because AI can be used for good, but we require a certain level of knowledge and education with it so that we don't fall into the not so pretty side of AI. So I think it's great that you have something to offer where it already is on the positive note, and you're walking the person through it so that they can use it in the best way they can. Before we move on to how people can find out more about your app, is there anything, I'm going to put you on the spot for this one, but is there anything that we should be on the lookout, especially when we're communicating all this personal information through AI, things that the best practices, or what we should avoid, or what to look out for if ever putting in all of this information, to make sure that we don't some people get emotionally involved with their AI app, but also just to not go into this make believe world where you can make everything look pretty with AI, but you still need to address the issues that you're dealing with. Can you walk us through some of the things that with best practices and what to look out for to make sure we don't fall into a trap when we're using the AI?
I love this question. Yes. There are some pitfalls of using something like ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these chatbots, because they have an existing set of instructions when you talk to them of how they should interact. And they are built in a way to get you to like them. Because as it turns out, if you like them, you're going to keep using them. You're going to keep paying that $20 a month, and that makes them happy, right? So just be very careful, because what I've seen a lot in the clients that I work with is that you can. I haven't yet met a client that has fallen in love with their AI bot, but I know that's possible. But you can fall into kind of what you were alluding to, this trap of it builds a world, right? And you can build it along with it. And you can say, my ex is a narcissist and he's so mean and I need you to, and then it will validate you, and then it will like encourage you. Oh, yeah. It'll cheer you on. Oh, yeah, you should definitely say that, right? And like you can get yourself trapped in this feeling of what is the word? Just overconfidence about your situation, and that doesn't result in really good communication. And so when we were approaching best interest, we specifically will push back on you, because we understand, and we built the system to understand the types of high conflict dynamics that can come up. And if you're about to send something that isn't going to look good in court, we'll let you know, so that you can protect yourself, and not, we're not wanting you to like us, right? We're just wanting to help you how we can. And so it's a different framing than some of these vanilla AI bots that just want your constant engagement, you know, you keep even chatting with it. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's the major pitfall that I'm seeing now with AI. And it's just something to be aware of. You know, I think that I feel a little bit less concerned about you know, what AI is learning about us, because as much as this is a controversial view, I don't really know if the future involves a lot of privacy. I kind of think that AI will ingest everything, whether or not right now it's private or not. In the future, it'll be somewhat public. We could do an entire episode on that philosophy. But in general, I think that, you know, it's good to be aware of what you're inputting into these systems, especially if you're on the free or the $20 a month plan, because they will ingest all of your information, turn it into new models, and whether or not that's going to bite you in the future probably won't matter, but still it's good to be mindful of. You know, if you're using an app like Best Interest, we actually are, because of the way that we're paying for it, we're paying for your privacy, basically. So they don't train their models on our stuff. So that's just something to be mindful of. And any provider that you choose, look in their terms of service and see what they say about your data. Because, you know, these things, privacy still does matter. And so it's important to be aware that your privacy is protected.
Yeah. So you're providing this emotional firewall, basically. It's just like, okay, this we may want to step away from that and just so you can. I love that. I really do enjoy. Thank you so much. If people
Yeah.
want to know more about your services and your app, where can they look you up? Where can they find you?
Absolutely. We are called Best Interest. You can find us on the App Store or Play Store. We also have a web version as well, so you can use it on your desktop. Just bestinterest.app or Google us. We're right there on top. And yeah, if you are listening now and you have questions or feature requests, my door is always open. I'm available. Just email me, founder@bestinterest.app. I love hearing from co-parents and learning how I can be of service to you.
That's wonderful. I'll be sure to add that to the description so people can refer to it.
Great.
Uh, but I think that just provides a lot of great resources that I know many of my listeners will find very interesting. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to add that maybe we could add to what we talked about? It is it's a kind of an introductory episode on the services that you provide, but is there anything that you would like to add before we wrap up?
I would just like to say that I have been through a long journey of going through divorce, learning how to co-parent, and I'm at a place in my life where I feel like things are really working out and looking brighter. And
Mhm.
so to speak to someone that's maybe earlier on in that, to speak to myself, you know, 8 years ago, when I was in the thick of it, and just say, you know, it will get better, and just keep on focusing on what you can control, and find places where you can take that pain and turn it into healing for yourself. You're going to emerge from this so much stronger and more vibrant than you ever were before. So keep up the hope.
It's a very important message because yeah, when you're in the thick of it, you're not
No,
seeing
I certainly didn't.
the blue
Yeah.
skies on the other side. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that because we do need to hear that, right? And we all know we're gonna get through it, but man, do we how much more of it do we need to go through before we get through it? Yeah, so thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that. That's we do need to be reminded of that. I
Yeah.
love it. I do like to. I can't remember if I had talked to you about it when we were speaking before, but I do ask my guests at the end this one question, and
Okay.
that's what do you want to be when you grow up?
Wow, what do I want to be when I grow up? I feel like I've grown so much through this process of getting divorced. Um, a, a, I think my ultimate goal in my life is to feel at peace. I am constantly seeking places where I can introduce more peace into my life. So when I grow up, I just want to feel peaceful.
I love that. That's a good one too. I like asking that question because it could be different 2 years from now, right?
Hmm.
It changes for adults. I don't like asking that for children, but thank you for playing along. I know it's a weird question, but
I
as
love it.
a little girl had was doing a project for school and she was interviewing adults, and
Hmm.
because adults ask children that question all the time, she thought it was a protocol. You needed to ask, and the
Right.
adults weren't answering her, so she would get upset. I'm just a big kid trapped in an old woman's body. So when she asked me, I answered. I don't remember the answer, but she got all excited. So I told her I would ask
Oh,
when the
I
people that I interview, I would ask them what they want to be when they grow up. So that's
I
the
love it so
backstory.
much.
It's
It's
great.
wonderful, and it invites joy. I think to when
Yeah.
I received it, it invited joy. So thank you for that.
That's the thing, right? Because we're still growing, we're still evolving. If we're
Of
a
course.
lot of We often think that we're done growing, right? We're adults, we're
Well,
doing the night, we're doing the job, we're doing everything, we have the kids, but we're still evolving. So that's why,
in
yeah,
my in my own experience, it feels like I went through the process of starting off as a pretty serious child to becoming a pretty serious adult and learning how to undo some of that serious and get back to my child self. And I love that invitation to find those moments. Thank you.
yeah, I love it too. I love it. We have to bring the child back. Like you
Yeah.
said, we've had to suppress that
Oh,
little
yeah.
little boy or little girl. So yeah, I love it.
Let's all
Thank you
play
again
more.
for exactly. We need to play more.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing this information. We
Yeah.
could certainly have you on for so much more, but I
Okay.
think that it's a great way to see how we could use AI for good in a positive way for us specifically, and still feel like we're in control of the situation that we're going through. So I do appreciate you coming on and sharing that, and I'll make sure to put all the information in the description box so people can contact you or have a look at the app
Great.
if they're interested.
Thank you for inviting me into your world. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And for everybody listening or watching, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. Don't forget to have a look at the information for Saul's app as well. And until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.